I want to be clear about something before I tell this story. I tried to stop it. That matters to me. Whether it changes anything, whether anyone believes it. Those questions are for whoever reads this account. I am only here to say what I saw at the low pressure on Sevet-Kaan station, and what I knew before the rest of the crew did, and what I was not fast enough to make them understand. Morag chose the human because the human looked easy. That is the beginning and the middle of the entire chain. Morag was good at reading rooms. It was the skill that had kept him moving and solvent across 7 port stations in the outer transit belt. And on the night I am describing, the low pressure was exactly the kind of room Morag read well. Low ceiling, cargo smell, a bartender who had learned not to remember faces, dock workers at 2 tables, a pair of freight haulers arguing over a manifest near the far wall, and at the bar itself, on a stool near the end, a human, old, gray at the temples, smaller than you would think, looking at him. He had a single glass in front of him, something amber, and he was not talking to anyone. His jacket was plain, not military, no insignia, the kind of shapeless gray cloth that working freight crews wear on cold dock stations. His hands were around the glass. He was not watching the room. He was just drinking. Morag made up his mind in about 4 seconds. I should tell you what I knew. 3 cycles prior to that night, I had spent a long transit pulling background checks on port security rosters. A professional habit, nothing more. Sevet-Kaan was a waypoint I had not worked before, and I do not enter new stations blind. In the security data I had accessed, inside a general human parse cross-reference file, was an operational summary. It was not marked sensitive. Theme. The humans file a great deal of information about themselves without apparent concern for who reads it. The summary covered a Class 14 designation, Keth-4, a continental shelf world in the outer arm, acid rain ecology, atmospheric toxicity index at roughly 9 times what most species require, pressure suit. The summary noted that a unit of soldiers from that designation had been used to clear and hold a contested industrial corridor over a period of 11 months. 308 hostiles engaged in the corridor at peak conflict. 11 humans assigned. The summary used the word resolve. I had thought about that word. I had moved on. You read a great many summaries in this line of work, and most of them do not stay with you. When Morag walked toward the bar and I followed 2 steps behind, I was still not thinking about it. I was doing what I always did. Reading the exits, reading the bartender, watching the room for anyone who might have a reason to intervene. The human at the end of the bar had not moved. His glass was about a third full. His hands had not shifted. Morag planted himself beside the stool and made his opening statement. He was good at opening statements. He kept them friendly sounding. A comment about the station, a question about freight routes, something that gave the mark time to feel the social weight of 2 large bodies standing close before the actual request arrived. The human looked up. That was when I saw his face clearly for the first time. I want to tell you there was something obviously dangerous about it. There was not. He was old. He had the kind of face that creases early and keeps creasing, deep lines at the eyes, a jaw that had taken some history in it. His eyes were gray, the same flat gray as the jacket, and they moved from Morag to me and back to Morag with no particular speed and no particular expression. He said, "I'm going to ask you politely to let me finish my drink." His voice was lower than I expected. Not loud, not performing. The way you say something you mean without needing to perform the meaning. Morag kept going. That was always going to be the problem with Morag. He had 7 stations of successful work behind him, and a methodology that had never failed in the way that would make him recalibrate. He kept going, and the request became a demand, and the demand had a number attached, and the number had a deadline, and I was standing 2 steps back doing the math that Morag was not doing. Keth-4, Class 14, the gray jacket, the freight worker cut of it. Complete and total absence of any tension in the man's hands, I said. Morag. He did not hear me, or he did not care. The human set his glass down. Not hard, he just set it down, the way you set something down when you are freeing both hands for something else. He turned on the stool to face Morag directly, and I watched him do it, and his expression did not change at all. No anger, no fear, no performance of threat. He looked like a man finishing a sentence he had already completed in his head. He said, "I add lightly." I said louder, "Morag, stop." Morak's hand came down on the human's shoulder. I will not walk through what happened next in great detail. It was 4 movements. I counted because I was watching carefully, and because I needed to know afterward whether I had missed anything, whether there had been more of it than I registered, or whether it had genuinely been that compact and that fast. It was 4 movements. First removed Morak's hand from the shoulder. The second put Morak against the bar counter, in a way that ended his ability to push back from it. The third addressed Vel, who had been standing to the left, and made the decision to get involved. The fourth was the human returning to the stool. He sat down, he picked up his glass, he drank. Vel was on the floor. Morak was holding his arm against his chest, with his other arm and breathing, something that was costing him effort. The freight haulers near the wall had not moved. The bartender had not moved. I had not moved. The human finished what was left in the glass. He set it on the counter. He looked at the bartender. "Another," he said. "Same." The bartender poured it. I looked at Morak. Morak was looking at the floor. He was not going to try again. I could see that clearly, and it did not require any particular insight because anyone in that room could see it. Vel was making sounds but was not standing. The human had his glass. The bar had gone completely quiet in the way a room goes quiet when everyone in it has just recalibrated simultaneously and is not sure yet where to put what they now know. I pulled the summary back up in my memory. Not the whole thing, just the number. 308. 11. 11 months. The word, resolve. I looked at the human's hands around the glass. They were steady. I want you to understand that. They were steady before, and they were steady now, and the temperature of his expression had not moved in either direction through any part of it. He was not calming down. He had not been worked up. He was simply at the same point he had been at when Morak chose the stool next to his. And then Morak had touched him, and he had handled that, and now he was back. I should tell you his name. I know it, because I went back through the personnel cross-references after Vethna and found the match on the operational summary, the same unit listing. The name in the file is Valdris, former Class 14 combat specialist, 4 designation, separated from service 11 years prior, status in the file, inactive. That is the word the humans used. I stayed on my stool. Morak left slowly with Vel's weight on one shoulder. I did not help him. I did not follow. I stayed because leaving felt like movement, and movement felt inadvisable, and because I was thinking about the word inactive and what it apparently meant in context. Valdris finished his second drink with the same patience he had given the first. He put some currency on the counter. Plain denominations. Exact change. He stood. He put on the gray jacket. He walked to the door without looking at me or at the space where Morak had been, and he went through it. The door settled shut behind him. After a while, the freight haulers went back to their manifest. Bartender wiped the counter. The dock workers at the 2 tables started talking again, quietly, and then less quietly, and then at normal volume. I sat there. I had tried to stop it, that remains true. I said his name twice, which was 2 more times than anyone else in the crew managed, and it was not enough. And I have come to accept that it was not going to be enough regardless, because the gap between what Morak believed about that stool and what was actually sitting at it was not a gap that words were going to close in the time available. I thought about the summary. I thought about 11 soldiers and 11 months, and the word resolved. Then I ordered something and sat with it and did not touch it for a long time.